had that feel to it as we see Ric Flair coming down the aisle. And there's one of those robes there you were talking about earlier, John.
Yeah, beautiful, isn't it? But I mean, the New York fans, they was a bit raucous, they're very, very opinionated, and very loud. You know, especially MSG. You knew you were going to get a good show, and this must have been a treat to see Ric Flair. You know, in the first ever match, a historic match against Hulk Hogan, and you got Howard Finkel there as the ring announcer. We've just lost Howard Finkel, of course. Very, very sad occasion, but this must have been just an amazing occasion. It looks pretty full as well, and there he is with they're blowing it out. The WCW World Heavyweight Championship, the big gold belt.
That still to this day they blur that out. Whether they just haven't bothered to take it out of the original tape, I don't know. They haven't done a very good job there.
But in fact, I think that the bit I just saw there was it wasn't the big gold belts that we historically know from NWA. Yeah. It looked more like the traditional WCW World Heavyweight title. So that's quite interesting. But beautiful robe there, Ric Flair. I mean, he would have been in his maybe mid-40s here.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Maybe early 40s.
We consider that as an old age here, but now, I mean, how many wrestlers on the roster are wrestling at 50 and, no big deal anymore, is it?
Well, Ric Flair's probably the same age as AJ Styles is now.
That's right, yeah.
And Hulk Hogan is probably in his late 30s here. So
this look, by the way, sorry to cut you out, that look there, that top, that's the figure I remember.
Yeah.
With the Hulkster rules. That's the one I was thinking of earlier.
Yeah. The classic Hulk Hogan look there, and the bandana. There he is tearing the shirt, but I would have loved to have been there. I mean, look at the fans. The fans are going mental for this. Hulk Hogan his hand to the ear, fantastic.
One thing I'll say about this, the reason I was fascinated to watch this match is because one of the last bits of an interview I listened to with Bruce Pritchard on Something to Wrestle With, which is an amazing podcast. I love it. When they were talking about this match not happening, for instance, Bruce Pritchard seemed to put it down to this particular match that the guys in the office felt that the chemistry just wasn't there and they lost interest in this. So I was fascinated to revisit this with a different hat on, different perspective, to see what it was that they saw and what it is, we see now. That could have been the case. Now, obviously, there are a whole lot more to it than that. But just taking it on that value alone, I was very interested and fascinated to check this match out. But like you say, John, Madison Square Garden, you're one of these fortunate, lucky fans to see this. I think these fans would have known, especially back in the day of the great newsletters and Wrestling Observer, this was a match that you don't want to miss. If you get the opportunity to go and see it, you want to get there and see this happen for the first time. And like you say, I mean, although, I've got the sound down here, I can see ultimately the fans are really invested in what they're about to see here.
Absolutely. And like you said earlier, this was 25 minutes into the show, not even the main event match. I think when you find the show on the network, it's actually got a thumbnail image of the Nasty Boys who headlined this show, believe it or not, which is quite strange. You would have thought they would have put this on all day long, but so I don't know what was their thinking behind this, and maybe because they weren't sure of how the match would play out, or maybe wasn't sure about their chemistry. Maybe that's why they were trying to play it safe by having them in the middle of the card, possibly, or early on in the card.
I think part of the reason is that, and it was the same on the other Madison Square Garden show as well, a month later. But the other reason is that half an hour of this chunk would go on network television, and the first half hour kind of wouldn't. I think that was exclusive to Madison Square Garden TV. Okay. So I think that's part of the reason as well. But it was a different time for house shows, because they didn't necessarily always have their big main eventers headlining a lot of the time, which was strange, like especially champions and stuff of that nature. I've got to say, early on this, we're seeing we're hitting all the big Ric Flair Hogan moments very early on here, aren't we? They haven't really played to that whole, take our time, let's feel the crowd. They are just literally going at it right from the off. And I suppose what we should point out is a lot of people, if you was an adult back here, you might think, could Hogan actually hang with a guy like Ric Flair? How's this going to work? That's far the match set up not too bad. I mean, it's working favourably, I'd say.
Yeah, no, I'm enjoying it so far, and Ric Flair is selling for Hulk Hogan, and you know, all the spots and the movement between the two seems to be quite good, and that obviously plays to the fact that these two are obviously veterans, and they've been doing it for many years, and obviously Hogan broke into the business in the 70s, and same for Ric Flair, so they've been doing it for, you know, best part of 15, 16, maybe close to 20 years at this point. So they you know, despite the fact that everybody kind of always discredits Hogan for his lack of wrestling ability, you know, he was more of a draw for his character, for his presence, for his personality.
I just noticed there's Vlad. That that's everywhere.
Vladimir, yeah, and he was on every single broadcast, wasn't he? Every pay-per-view, every WrestleMania, every Monday Night Raw, and then he kind of dropped off the scene for a long time. I've not seen him for 20 plus years, but he was at everything. He's like the green shirt guy nowadays, isn't he?
Yeah.
The green shirt guy that's always kind of front and center. It's almost like they kind of swapped places. When one dropped off, the other one appeared. But I mean, the chemistry in this match is very, very good, and like I say, they're both selling for one another.
It's faster than I thought it would be. I'll tell you that.
It is, yeah. There's no hanging about here nowadays. It'll say, you know, slow down. But this has a fair amount of action in it. I'm enjoying it so far.
I love the fact that they went outside the ring for a while as well, which, you know, wasn't always common back then to be doing stuff like that. But it's almost like they felt the audience, they felt the crowd, and kind of did that off the fly a little bit to get them more engaged. And some of those merch that we were talking about earlier, I mean, you can spot that everywhere. Kids wearing every stuff. I've seen that doll. Yeah, it's such a different time. People buying that stuff. You know what else fascinates me when I go back and watch old school stuff is the photographers around the ring.
I love that. Of them. I love that. It just add a bit more authenticity to it, a bit more of a sports feel, and they should do more of it. Well, when things get back to normal, you can have people in the arenas. They should bring the photographers back. But just an interesting question for you, John. Who do you think is calling the match here?
That is an interesting one. I've got to imagine that I would imagine these two before the match. I just think that I think Flair would go along with Hogan a little bit on this one. I just got that feeling. I know it's more predominant than maybe Flair would call this, but I got a feeling that for the most part he's working towards Hogan's style. I mean, he's certainly helping out a lot as we see some. This is funny because Hogan's almost like doing back to him some heelish stuff here. It's got to be a lot more fun for Hogan, I would say, working with someone like Flair, who, you know, will sell like this for a guy and has got all these little nuances that he'll do and play to. Again, what makes a great babyface, you've got to be in there with someone that can draw some heat.
Yeah, and there's Flair just getting tossed off the top turnbuckle there, like he always says. I think the only time he hit that spot was in his retirement match against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 24.
Wow, okay.
That was the only time, and they allowed. Shawn Michaels said, "Look, I'm going to let you hit this spot because you've never ever hit it." But that was one of his kind of, you know, his heel tactics, and he would always get caught up on that top turnbuckle. And this Hogan big boot leg drop. Oh, nearly. No, it wasn't. Nearly a 3 count there. Flair put his foot on the bottom rope just at the last split second. Now, that's a veteran move, that is. But the referee here is playing a blinder. And everybody thought he counted to 3. Hogan thought he counted to 3. You got Earl Hebner there, and all 3 kind of veterans of the business playing a blinder. And I mean, Ric Flair, I think he's going to the leg now, but I think he's poked Hogan in the eye about 16 times already.
No, he's perfect up there as well. What a tracksuit.
But Mr. Perfect could get away with it. He's probably the only guy that could get away with that, to be honest with you.
But I tell you, I mean, up until this point, I would say one of the standout things to me is just the pace of it. I have seen this match before, but I don't remember it being as quick. I thought it was just going to be the first couple of minutes. They've literally gone 100 miles per hour in that first part. And, you know, we're just about probably to reach a little bit more of a slowdown because we're going to get that sort of babyface comeback, I'm sure. But amazing how quick they both were. So although you think, these two don't have great chemistry, to go that pace, you've got to have some chemistry, otherwise it would look terrible. Like we've seen a few times very recently with some stuff like that.
Well, this is the first time that I've seen this match. In all honesty, I've not
Oh,
clapped
really?
eyes. I didn't even know it existed until we started talking about this episode. So, this is with fresh eyes, and I've always been a huge fan of Ric Flair, and I've always been an admirer of Hulk Hogan. Let's put it that way. Yeah, I mean, I can't see anything wrong with this match at the moment. It's certainly not 5 stars in the Tokyo Dome, but it's definitely an entertaining match. Like I say, and the action's been there. You've got Perfect on the outside as the kind of heel advisor of Ric Flair, softening up Hulk Hogan. But I mean, they're pulling out all their kind of famous moves, and Ric Flair softening up.
And one thing I will say, I know sometimes you watch two egos working against each other, i.e. we've seen it with Shawn Michaels and Hogan once at SummerSlam. I mean, that was just so over the top dramatic, and we kind of knew Michaels wasn't maybe too happy about the way that was going to go. But in this case, as we see the figure 4 leg lock, very iconic there, especially on Hogan. In this case, I will say that neither of these two guys look like they don't want to sell for each other. I mean, they're both selling for each other. So there doesn't seem to be that, I'm going to get all my stuff in more than you. I'm going to make myself look better than you. It seems like there's a lot of cooperation going on here. So, I know people might think, these two huge egos would have had problems. But in this match, you definitely can't tell if there was one.
No, definitely not. And a large part of Hogan's act is the babyface comeback and the big selling spots.
Yeah.
And he's doing that here. And a big part of Flair's act is the selling and, the facials and the vulnerability of the heel trying to get away from the big babyface. But here he goes. He got some sort of knuckle dusters here.
Yeah,
Perfect just passed him some knuckle dusters. But I think these two, I mean, I don't know if I'm trying to kind of relate it. I know we're going to talk about it back to why the WrestleMania 8 match didn't happen. And I can't see, I mean, this would have been money. This would have sold tickets for WrestleMania. And well, we'll obviously get into the reasons why it didn't work.
There we go.
And there we go. Wow. Having not seen this match before, I would have predicted that Hogan would have won.
Yeah, I think most people that I show this to always expect that. They just can't believe. And I think it's because recently the education has been, if you bring in WCW guys, you bury them for the most part. But back here, it was a different time. I don't think Vince necessarily had the hate or anger with WCW at this point. And I think it was just a different time. So, this booking, this having Ric Flair go over gives some doubt. Although it was done by hook and crook, so neither guy would be hurt, I think is a good way to start all this for those sort of fans looking in, as we see some authoritative figures out there now trying to say what happened. There's the other Hebner. Of course, many found people. I love the reaction from the crowd here. I mean, they're really into this. They're buying this, and now they're like, "Hang on a minute, this isn't going to happen." So we're gonna. And the crowd are just so into it. Like you just wouldn't get that today. But here, a lot of new things are still going on as we see Hogan now taking him back. And there we go. There's a famous spot there. And Hogan very much selling. That figure 4 leg lock from earlier.
People don't give Hogan enough credit. I mean, when he was a babyface, he was the best on the planet for selling, most definitely. And
sure.
That was part of his act. Is he would draw sympathy from the fans by selling all day long, sell the offense. He'd always get the upper hand. He'd always be the big triumphant babyface, but he would sell till the cows come home. And there was nobody better back in the day.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you watch those two in this match. I mean, again, like you said, it seems like there is money in this. I mean, obviously there's money guaranteed regardless, just on name power. But I mean, actually getting to the match, which it does happen sometimes. You get two guys together and it just doesn't happen. Here's a very Hogan typical moment back then, John. Get the kid in, hug the babies, get them there.
He's get the kids helping him through. He's so injured. The kids helping him through the ropes.
He's really selling this now. He's really selling this. Somewhere You know, that kid's going to be grown up now somewhere, maybe reliving this moment. Imagine that. He's going to take that belt with him.
There you go.